Hello, this is the Sheldon Heights Church of Christ History Project called the 90th Nine Voices. And I'm your moderator, Joseph Olalusi. And in this series, we'll talk to 9 different voices that'll ultimately bring us to date as to how Sheldon Heights and all its culture and all its impact have come to be in its 90th anniversary. Each episode will have its own theme and ultimately bring us to date on how the church came to be what it is today. Regardless of your religious background, regardless of your culture, we hope that this history project inspires you to realize that history is being made at this very moment and that you're a part of it. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Brother Levi Kennedy came to Chicago in 25, if my mind is right. He was in Gary about 1920. He was born in 1899. He was the first pastor of our church. In 1931, he began the Michigan Avenue Church.
Brother Kennedy was the minister. And Brother Kennedy had been traveling all over the country, preaching and teaching. And even down in Mississippi, he came there many times and preaching and teaching. So our parents and all knew him. And when you was going to move to Chicago, they will instruct you to go to Michigan Avenue. If you was a member of the church, of Church of Christ, they will instruct you to go to Michigan Avenue because they knew Brother Kennedy. They knew what he stood for. They knew his work.
So I was baptized into the Church of Christ in Mississippi. And our first minister of the Michigan Avenue Sheldon Heights Church of Christ, Brother Levi Kennedy, baptized me. He lived in Chicago, but he would come to Mississippi almost every year and do gospel meetings. So he always came. He lived with my grandparents, and he was doing a gospel meeting. I was 10 years old, and he baptized me.
Mississippi. And that's where I lived. And I went to the meeting. It was a great big tent meeting, about 3 weeks we had when I was baptized in 1949. Wow. September 1949, I was baptized in a big pond. Not a baptismal pool, but a great big pond.
Oh, we had to make our own clothes. We had to make them out of whatever we had. We couldn't go to the store and buy clothes. You had to make clothes. Your parents, made your clothes. We grew our own food, killed our own meat, and that's just, chicken. As far as chicken, now everybody just go to the store and buy chicken or go to Kentucky Fried, but we had to go out in the yard and catch chicken and then kill it and then pick him, get him ready for dinner. Going to school, you had black schools, which was very inferior to the white schools. And of course, they had buses to get to their schools. We had to walk to get to our school. We would walk a couple miles to get to school. But our parents kept us in school, but after school, we had to come home and go to the field and work. So you never stop.
A lot of people were leaving because they were seeking better jobs and things in the northern states. Some of them went out west, some were coming north, but it was a better living.
In Mississippi, it was all in outward. You knew where you had separate place to go. You had your bathroom for blacks, bathroom for whites, water fountain for blacks, water fountain for white. You knew that in Mississippi, so you had to follow those guidelines. In Chicago, it was just as bad, only wasn't publicized with letters, maybe you can't go here. But your school system was just about as bad. You still had, segregation in school system. Job-wise was, we was the first, maybe we'll get hired, but the first to get laid off. so you still had those problems. There was only one other congregation in Chicago, black congregation in Chicago at that time. Brother Kennedy started this work but Brother Kennedy started this work in 1931. He was a member of the first church was Old Maypole, which is on the west side. Brother Kennedy connected with that church when he came to Chicago. It was back in 1920 something, I forget exactly what year. But he connected with that church because that was the only black church in Chicago. Now, mind you, he lived on the south side. So he would commute to the west side every Sunday to go to worship. And of course, there was a lot of people that lived on the south side that was a member of the church, but there was no church over here on the south side. And therefore, he appealed to the brothers there at the Old Maypole Church to ask if he could take a group of people from that congregation and start a work on the south side, because there was many members on the south side that wasn't going to church. That's how he ended up back on the south side in 1931.
Through history, he has shown who he is. He has shown what he can do. And he has inspired us to what can happen. Historic. So when I use one word, that's about as close as I can put all the puzzle pieces.